to another episode of Stuck in My Mind podcast. I am your host, WIZE, and today's guest is redefining what it means to be a successful artist in the modern age. He's a nationally recognized wildlife painter and gallery owner based in Montana's stunning Bitterroot Valley. Welcome to the show, James Corwin.
Thank you. It's really
Hey,
great to be here.
thank you for being a guest. I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's just jump right into it.
Sure.
What was the moment you knew art could become a full-time career for you?
Yeah, it actually came a bit later than when some people might expect. It was my senior year of high school is when I discovered I could do art or had some artistic talent to pursue. And uh, prior to that, though, I knew that I wanted to work for myself and be an entrepreneur, have my own business, and create a life that uh, was creative in some way. And I knew that at an early age, like 12 years old. So between 12 years and 18 years old, I would do little side businesses in the summer and during school so that I didn't have to pick up a summer job, mowing lawns or working at a fast food restaurant or something. So I was always entrepreneurial at the start. And when I discovered I could do art, it it allowed me to build that lifestyle that I ultimately want to create for myself, and waking up every day and being able to do something that I love and connect with people too, and build a business, which I think art is certainly um, something that you can be naturally gifted with, but I also am very passionate about business and just expanding my business knowledge. So I I suppose feel fortunate that I've been able to pair both, because I know a lot of artists struggle with the business aspect of growing their art. For me, the two and two go well in hand.
How has Montana's landscape and wildlife inspired your creative process?
I grew up in the mountains in the Flathead Valley in a log cabin way back in the mountains, and we didn't have internet or cable. So my entertainment was the outdoors, the backyard, and I would, spend hours with nature and the little critters that roamed in the backyard, and big critters too. And on weekends, I would, with the family, hike in Glacier National Park. That was about 30 minutes from the house, or go camping and fishing. So I was well connected with the outdoors from an early age. And I do think that certainly has influenced what I paint today. I started painting landscapes initially, but then switched into painting wildlife, which is what I paint primarily now.
Your paintings often include whimsy. Where does that come from?
Yeah, it does. And I suppose it comes from the emotion that I want the viewer to feel. When I'm creating a new idea for a painting, I am really first starting with, what do I want the person who's viewing that art to feel? How do I want them to move them? And then I start to build an idea around that and what moves me, because I I believe that if it can move me emotionally, then I can pass that through the painting onto the viewer. And so those elements of whimsy create a story. So if I have a grizzly bear, for example, that's looking at a hummingbird that's flying in front of it, it has a story. It's something that people don't typically see. And so it's a unique idea. And it creates a playfulness and maybe more of a joyful reaction to seeing a grizzly bear when they're most often perceived as an aggressive animal. So yeah, I think the story building from whimsy is exciting to utilize in creating new painting ideas.
Well, what was the biggest business mistake you made early on, and what did you learn?
Ooh, there's been plenty. There's been a lot. um, this, and they're always great to learn from. I've been getting used to the stings because now they're just opportunities to learn, such as uh, trusting people with my money and investments and seeing them run off with the money. To even just within the past year, I opened a second gallery in Aspen, Colorado. And while I didn't lose any money and it performed well, I just realized that it took quite a bit of mental stress and to run something like that afar because I was still in Montana. And I really wanted to try opening and running a gallery in another state. Um, I like to do rather than wonder. So I'm glad that I did that, but also found my strengths and weaknesses personally, and one of them being that I I can't I don't really want to run and manage employees from far away. It takes a lot of time away from the easel, which is where I'm most needed. So that wasn't necessarily a failure, but more um, uh, a learning lesson that required considerable amounts of stress. Stress that I hadn't experienced before, and that actually took me to the doctor.
How did you how did you first start marketing your art online? What clicked?
It Facebook has continually been an incredible resource. I would paint little paintings in my dorm room in college and throw them up on Facebook to my followers and would usually sell them. They were probably like 30, $40 a piece back then. And that certainly motivated me to keep going. And I would also do farmers markets in the summer and set up a table with a whole bunch of little paintings and sell those at $20 a pop. But I would sell quite a few of them and do that every week. And I did that for a number of summers. But eventually, it it gets better, the prices go up, and marketing too. I run a lot of ads on social media. I don't think artists understand the power of utilizing Facebook ads or Google ads, because while it takes considerable knowledge to understand how to do them effectively, they really do work, and they work very well. So ads have been a great driver of the business over the last decade, and just getting new people into the website and buying artwork and then becoming repeat buyers and commissions for original paintings. And now, I've I have a collective base of over 10,000 people, and much of them have come from marketing through advertising.
And that's something not just artists don't utilize, business owners don't utilize that aspect of the
Sure.
Facebook and Instagram and all these other platforms where you run ads. You need to have a budget so that you can run your ads and help promote whatever business that you're doing.
Absolutely. And you can really start with $5 a day on a single ad, but the power is in learning how to write good copy and how to create a targeted audience and effectively scale those ads.
When people walk into Corwin Galleries, what kind of experience do you want them to have?
I tell my employees this when I'm hiring them on the first day, is that we create a very welcoming environment that feels like you're walking into a space that is for family. And whether that person is walking in who is there to buy art or there to just look at art, we treat them like family and like friends, um, and just engaging in conversation. I feel like when you walk into galleries, often a lot of galleries are very kind of austere, and there's somebody sitting behind a desk, and perhaps they'll acknowledge you, or they're qualifying you from behind the desk. And if you perhaps don't meet their standards of what an art buyer looks like, they don't even talk to you. And I want to talk to everyone and just have a wonderful conversation, whether they're there to buy art or not.
Okay. What are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about being a full-time artist?
Oh, that we're a starving artist, and we're starving artists. I still get that all the time, and I just roll with it. I'm like, it just kind of laughed it off. But honestly, artists can have a truly lucrative career and make very good money. Marketing is pretty important. It's all about getting your art seen. If you could be the most incredible painter, and if nobody sees it, then it doesn't sell. Or you could do splatter paint, and with the right good marketing, you could sell that for millions, which Pollock has done. So it really comes down to creating a brand around your art. I, it's taken me quite a number of years to realize that I'm building a brand rather than a business. And I know a brand is a business, but uh, they're different, because a business is meant to be built and run without the owner, and something you could sell and pass along. However, I couldn't sell the art business because I need to be present to produce the art. So in a way, it's a brand, and the brand can live on after me, but um, it's harder. It's just a different structuring. And so I've been learning more about how to build a brand business. Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent though on the starving artist. And yes, it's like any other self-employed or freelancing career. It's what you put in is what you get out. And if you truly want to be successful, there are avenues to do that. You just have to pull the right plugs and and make it happen, and understand that time is on your side. Um, that's been something that's been challenging to contend with over the last decade of being a full-time artist, is just understand that things don't happen as fast as I'd like them to, and wondering, why hasn't my painting sold for $100,000 yet or something? And um, but perhaps that could be in 20 years. At least that's the goal, or 10, but certainly would like to see it in 5.
How do you balance your artistic flow with the demands of running a business?
It's a daily struggle. I have employees that I manage, and um, but once you get them well trained, it can they can you know do the work without much uh, intervention or input, or just looking over what they're doing. However, it still takes time away from the easel. So it's ironic in a way that I hire employees to buy myself back time at the easel, but then they always seem to create more work for me that takes me away from painting that I have to deal with. And then I try to offload it more. And so it's just kind of, it scales up as I go. Um, but every day the intention is to get as much time at the easel as I can, because that's the biggest money maker, is creating artwork.
Okay. What part of the creative process do you enjoy the most? The ideation, painting, or storytelling?
Ooh, that's a great question. I love coming up with ideas, but I also love the moment after a painting is finished and I can share it with everyone. Seeing and hearing people's reactions is very rewarding. I have a follower base over a couple 100,000, so it's uh, very I guess it can stroke the ego a little bit when you create a painting and put it out and you're getting lots of nice comments and likes from people appreciating the artwork. But at the same time, it does help reinforce why I do what I do, and that's creating artwork to uh, share beauty and inspire people. And I love too the transaction of selling the art to a collector. That has never been something that letting go of art hasn't been painful, because I love how and seeing how that person, that collector, embraces that new artwork and enjoys it in their home.
What's one painting that means the most to you, and why?
There is a rhino that I painted many years ago. I went on a safari in South Africa, and there were these two rhinos, Rosie and Roger, and I spent a lot of time with them, a couple weeks, and photographed them. And this was my first trip to Africa. And what really inspired me to start painting wildlife is because my mind was just blown by the fauna there. They're larger than life, it seemed. And when I got home shortly after, I heard that Roger had been poached, and really was disheartening, of course. And I created this painting of Roger, and it was the best painting I think I had done to date, and sold that day for more than I'd sold a painting for before. And that painting marked that transition into painting wildlife, and from having painted landscapes prior.
How did your global travels shape your approach to both life and art?
I I just love seeing the natural world. I just got back last week from the Philippines. I went scuba diving for a couple of weeks, and I'd never been scuba diving before, so I got certified there, and it completely blew my mind. I tell people I felt like an astronaut putting on my spacesuit every day and going into zero gravity and looking at alien life and another planet, because it truly was. I didn't even know so many of these creatures even existed or could look this way or be colored this way. And so that was pretty expansive in creating obviously new inspiration for future paintings. Um, so, yeah, traveling and just being able to observe animals in their natural environment, I take little mental images of that, and it all helps in creating the realness and the aliveness within my paintings that I want people to feel.
You've created online art courses. How has
Mhm.
teaching changed your perspective?
Yes, and well, yes, yeah, in a good way. I've been teaching for 10 years as well, and the methods that I teach now are simplified enough so that anyone can paint, even if they've never picked up a brush before. And that that's how my perspectives on teaching has changed, is that anyone can do it. Anyone can paint. And I used to think teaching painting was more difficult, but it's how you teach and the methods in which you teach. And just like anyone can learn to play piano and learn to play it well, anyone can learn how to paint and paint well. But then you have the outliers that are just naturally gifted, right? You have the 5-year-old prodigy from China who's just playing Mozart like they were born to play it, which they probably were. But and then artists the same way. However, it's just like any other skill. You can learn it through time and practice. And largely, I'm self-taught. I realized I had an knack for it, but my art 12, 14 years ago was not good. Or not as good as I believe it was, um, but I just stuck with it. Back to like the original question, it was offered a lifestyle that I admired, and um, so yeah, I just stuck with it and let time and practice be my teacher.
What's your advice for artists struggling to price their work and find their audience? And that's not just even art. That's even with podcasters or podcast producers. And to me,
Mhm.
it's trying to what is your price? How do you price your work and what's your value?
Yes, yeah, I price my work at the square inch. So right now it's at $11 a square inch of canvas. So it makes it very easy when I create a painting like this size, for example, behind me, 24 by 48, and that's 13,000. And it doesn't really matter what the subject is or how long it took me to paint it. It's the same price across the board of that size. And I think it makes it pricing more consistent and easier, certainly for the artist or galleries. Um, when some people price based on time or the complexity of the subject. And I think for people who are buying art from that artist or investing, it makes it a little more challenging because if it's based on time, one piece could be 5,000 because it took 10 hours, and then the next piece could be, 50,000 because it took 50 hours or something. And that's a pretty large discrepancy. I don't know if I did my math right there. I'm an artist, not a mathematician, but um, but for artists getting started, the best place to look is at what other artists similar to you are doing and at similar times in their art career. Meaning, if you're 2 years in, look at other artists who are 2 years in, who are painting similar to you, and where are they selling their art? And you can get this info from galleries or their website and start to base it off of that, rather than just kind of pulling random numbers out of the air. That works too. You can certainly do that and be like, okay, well, I'm gonna start with $400 and just see if there's any takers here at this. And if there are, then great, do it again, and then do it again. And then next time try 500, and then do that a few times. And that's how you raise prices over time, is you get consistency at selling at one price point. And if the demand is there and you can start to increase a little bit and people still keep buying, that's great. Then go to that next threshold and stick with that maybe for a year or so, or several months, and then step up again. I, I've been at the $8 price point for a number of years, and it was last year that I started to step up into the 11. And it's not just something that happens overnight either. It's I I price things at 11 and see if there's I make sales there, and when I do, it confirms that price point. But sometimes I still have to offer discounts or make reductions, which take me back down to like between 8 and 11. And so it's just this kind of back and forth as I start to establish $11 as the new price point. And then once I'm pretty much there now, and I'll ride that out for a year, a couple of years, until I feel like the demand allows me to push it up again.
How do you keep evolving creatively without losing your core identity?
That's a great question. I feel like I just have endless ideas and inspiration. And surely my ideas have evolved. They've certainly been more complex over the years. I challenged myself by creating a composition that um, has a lot of interesting elements and things going on that make it an interesting painting. It would be easy for me to paint, which I do this a lot, like the one behind me. I'll paint a bison and it'll just be in mist and snow, so there's not a lot going on in the background. Or I might paint, a bear hiding in a bunch of willows and gnarly branches. And to me, that's visually interesting, but those willows and branches are going to take a lot of time to paint. But it's going to be, in my opinion, more of a stellar painting because it shows craftiness and uh, something that perhaps a viewer or somebody who looks at art hasn't seen before. And that's, I suppose, back to your question, how I'm trying to continually reinvent myself, is creating ideas with wildlife that people haven't seen before.
What's the biggest shift you've seen in the art world since you've started?
Hmm. I have found that prints sell really well, and they've sold really well for me for the last decade. And many artists thought that the print market was dead or is dead. I understand that prints did really well in the 80s and 90s. Of course, I wasn't even alive during that time. And so I don't know how it compares to that time. But there's a lot of artists that believe, oh, print market is dead. It died in the 90s and it hasn't recovered. However, like last month, I sold over 110 prints, and it's like that every month. And I've been telling people this, or artists this, for years, and they're finally starting to get on the bandwagon of selling prints. So I think there's been a shift from artists who realized that, oh, maybe I should be on this print game because I've been missing it all these years. And largely those print sales are driven through ads online. So those artists who are getting in the print game now, I think are going to find it much more challenging to run ads to drive sales for those prints because the ad market is more diluted now, and it's much harder to get a lower cost per acquisition on those prints.
Excuse me.
But the art market in general has remained strong. The pandemic was great for artists, especially if they were online and had e-commerce set up through their website. A lot of us saw a huge spike in sales because I think people were just sitting at home looking at maybe some empty walls and wanting to get some art on their walls and redecorate their homes. However, just generally, I'm in the Western art market, they call it, rather than maybe an art market, that contemporary art market or modern that you'd see in New York down to Miami. I'm not too familiar with that market and how that's performing. I assume well, based on the news that I read, but in my world of Western art and artists and collectors, I always get nervous when there's times of recession or downturns in the economy because there's an assumption that people stop buying art. But I've continually been pleasantly surprised, and perhaps from what I hear is oftentimes investors put money into artwork as a preservation of capital, which is what we're seeing right now with the fluctuations in the stock market.
So how has the how has the popularity of Yellowstone Spotlight on Montana affected your gallery and brand?
I think it has had an effect for sure on the gallery down in Hamilton. Because when I look back through my numbers of those years, they were considerably higher than the numbers of the last couple of years. And I think the tourism of that show brought in a lot of people into Hamilton. It certainly drove up the price of homes in the real estate market. And a lot of people were buying homes during that time. So we were supplying artwork to new homes. And I think there's still an element of that there, but we don't quite get as many of the tourists, at least that I've seen, coming in. But those that Well, actually, I don't quite know. I'd be curious to know if those people who moved in during the years of the show have stayed or not, or bought a house as a vacation home, still vacation there.
How important is storytelling in the success of your artwork?
I think it's everything, at least for my artwork. If there isn't a story, then it's even harder to create an emotion. And artwork is an emotional experience. When you see it and you feel something, I think that should be the point of creating artwork, or to send a message too, of course, and or to say something that you're feeling. But all of that is to say that it's an emotional experience. And in order to do that effectively, it's like writing or doing a movie, except I'm limited to a snapshot, and I have to take a whole experience of a movie, of a story, and condense it down into one single frame. And that's why I love creating ideas, but they do take me a while, because I'm composing a scene, and I'll know when it's done because it strikes a chord in here and it just clicks. I feel that emotion, and then I know I'm on to something good. And then that, I hope, will translate through the final painting and be passed along to the viewer. And I imagine it's like writing music. You're sitting there, perhaps at the piano, and playing a bunch of chords, and all of a sudden those chords and notes arrange themselves into something that moves you. And that's that moment that this is it. Let's run with it.
What role does community play in your success as an artist?
It's important. I'm continually trying to find ways to connect with community of artists. We are very solitary by nature, and it can be challenging to connect with one another, because most of our time is spent in the studio. But there are great opportunities for us all to get together, such as last month in Great Falls for Western Art Week, where hundreds and hundreds of artists come to Great Falls, Montana to exhibit artwork, and collectors from around the country come to buy artwork. And it's a great time of just connecting with your artist community there. And then outside of artwork, one of the reasons I love having a gallery is being connected with the local community. And I teach art classes to the community once a week at the gallery. We do art shows and events that um, obviously I assume the community loves and attends. And of course, supporting local events and fundraisers. And yeah, the gallery it's important for the gallery to be well connected with the community.
Awesome. Um, what's next for you, James? Any new projects or creative ventures on the horizon?
Yeah, it right now I am working on building more of that brand aspect of the business, and putting more money and time and resources into marketing, and getting continually to get that my name out into the marketplace, because there's so much that is, well, for lack of a better term, untapped potential. And I'm just really excited to just continue being on this art journey. It certainly has its struggles, and like the beginning of the year, it was challenging, and now it's like really good. So there's always the ups and downs, but that's what keeps it so interesting, to wake up every day and just be excited for what comes next, and to be just invested in building something, and being able to connect with my collectors, and just build relationships. That's another thing I'm working on. I'm flying down to Dallas in May, early May, just to meet collectors, and I've been sending them art for years, but I haven't actually met them in person. And I think relationships are incredibly important in this business, and so I'm working on growing those and nurturing those as well.
All right. Well, we've come to the part of the show where you get the solo screen and you get to plug away, let everybody know where they can find the artwork, where they can come, where's the gallery at, everything.
Great. So you can find my artwork at jamescorwin.com, and you can just plug James Corwin into Google, and a whole bunch of listings with my art and images will come up. My Instagram is James Corwin. My Facebook is James Corwin. So if you can remember that name, you can find me.
Awesome. Thank you, James, for being a guest. I greatly appreciate it. It's been a pleasure having you on and talking to you.
Sure. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure and wonderful to talk with you. Thank you for your great questions.
Oh, thank you. But don't leave just yet. Let me close out the show. We'll chat a little bit off the air. But once again, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate you spending this time with us and answering the questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, another episode is in the books, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. Please, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel. Share the replay if that's what you catch. If you catch the replay, share it. Hit the notification bells. I greatly appreciate you all. And as always, big shout out to my Real Wise fam, Poppy J, Brandy J. Love you guys. Shout out to the boss lady. And as always, a big shout out to all the essential workers out there. God bless you. Be safe. You know, your boy Wise does it. Peace out.